guess are they going to have we're going to have a question period or?
Yes, sir.
Oh, no, I get some water. And then we'll
I'm going to take about 3 questions.
We'll take 3 questions, brothers and sisters, if there is any, or are any. Are there any questions? 3? Are there any questions? Dr. Karinga, you have a question? I'm glad to see you, beloved brother. That's one of our brilliant theoreticians. Right there, brothers and sisters. And I say that because Brother Farrakhan admires him. And I hope that in the future that we will learn to respect those that are among us that work for us while they are among us. I see Dr. Karinga's work all over America. All over America. Everywhere I go in the nationalist community, I see his work. And I have to respect and honor that work and honor the man that produced that work. This development, we're not going to be about cutting each other's throat. That day is all over. We're going to be about helping each other to get where all of us want to go. I see two questions, brother and brother. I saw brother's hand first, all right? Yes, brother. His question is it worth our time going to the universities in America? Yes, sir, it is. Why is it worth our time? America has some very fantastic universities and very great knowledge that is given out. If you have no knowledge of yourself coming into these universities, then they socialize you and program you into a useful tool for their service. But if you've got the knowledge of yourself, you can come into these universities and extract out of them what we need as a people to go on into liberation. Yes, there's a lot that these universities have to offer, so don't say, I ain't going to no white universities. It would be fine if we had universities of our own, and I'm sure we will. But until that happens, come and get whatever you can out of these universities, then use it for the advancement of yourself, your people, all over the world, and then the rest of humanity. But first, get the knowledge and use it for yourself and your people in America, then your people abroad, then the world. Yes, brother. Most free independent countries are sending their nationals here to study. They don't come here to learn Western ideas and philosophy, but the Western man makes sure that he puts his ideas and philosophy in you before you go back to your country, so that he has an in that country through the students that have been taught here. But Nkrumah studied here. And he got something. So, brother, yes, apply yourself, please. That's how you're going to make it. Apply yourself to study, but the main ingredient of study is the knowledge of self. Thank you. Yes, sir, brother. Oh, brother. Well, it's been a very long time just to get us to recognize the little that we do recognize about our need for a nation. I imagine that it will be quicker to build a nation the more we see that we can rely less on white America. Listen to me carefully. As the riches of America diminishes, our desire to rely on ourselves will increase. And the more our desire for self-reliance increases, the faster will be our pace in building a nation. And it won't be as long as it has been. It certainly won't take 400 years. It will not take no 400 years. But we'll get it started, and our children will carry it on. Yes, brother.
The impact of groups the next, the thought,
the first thing, then the second one. What impact do you think it had on the minds of black people in this country? And to what extent has it affected their thinking as far as being an African people?
Thank you. I think Roots has had some positive effects, but also some negative effects. Television as a medium is geared more for entertainment than actual history. And I think we can agree that the television docudramas of King and Roots went very much away from the book Roots and went very much away from the actual life of Dr. King. They have to make real life entertainment. So in this, there's always an entertainment value, and then there's always the subtle seeds of the script writers and those producers who have another motive other than what Alex Haley had in mind. Now, Alex Haley was not in complete control of how Roots came out, and he will admit this. When Alex Haley wrote for Reader's Digest, he interviewed Mr. Muhammad and he interviewed Malcolm. Malcolm was the first one that told Alex Haley that some of our forebears who came to the United States or were brought to the United States were Muslims. When Alex did his research, he sent word to me. I got a letter from him saying that what Malcolm had told him he had found to be true. But the way Roots depicted the village, it was a false picture. But I saw my children watch Roots, and I saw the pain in their face as they saw what black people went under, and Roots was very light in what it portrayed. And I mean, my youngster, 5 years old, 6 years old, he looked at that thing and the tears rolled down his cheek. He said, "Daddy, were we treated like that?" I said, "Oh, son, much worse than that." I mean, it impacted in that way, all right? But then if you watch Roots 1, later on it got to the scene where the boy was angry and the white girl was talking to him. Then the seed dropped. Very fertile seed. Well, if you're against white people, you're against me. And she laid it on the little boy, and he smiled, and they embraced. Those kind of things sink deep into our people. It had positive and negative effects. Roots 2, brother, by that time you could see the degeneration of things. Because not only did Roots 2 have less impact than Roots 1 in a positive sense, but coming right up to the Malcolm scene, the way they portrayed Malcolm and the way they laid on that scene of Malcolm's assassination and the way they portrayed Muslims, they had another thought in mind. I'm looking at it from that kind of personal viewpoint. And then to have Alex Haley do a commercial for the United States Army. That show you, brother. Things are pretty rough. And even when they display our roots, they control the content. But if you contrast that with Holocaust and the Jewish telling of their story, they made sure that when you left that movie or that televiewing, you had a compassionate heart for Jewish suffering. That was not the case with Roots. It polarized both people I mean, black folks the next day were hot as hell at that first showing of Roots. But the last showing, I didn't feel that kind of spirit. It was like, well, we in now. We in now. I think that we have to ultimately move, brothers and sisters, to write our own histories, as we have great black historians that are doing it. Sheikh Anta Diop, Dr. Chancellor Williams, Dr. Ben Dockman. Our own historians must be honored, revered, and cherished by us. And then we must develop the type of television expertise to put together documentaries that tell our story the way our story needs to be told. Now to you, my dear brother, as an African, and we as Africans transplanted in America, if I may use those words, we need to strengthen our ties. And we need to do everything in our power to break up the poison that is being spread between us and our African brothers. Every campus that I've gone on to where they have African students and the BSU or the Black Student Union, they have no rapport. It is worse now than it ever was in the 60s and even in the 50s. We need each other. And we have got to see the full dimensions of our struggle. That Africa is important to our struggle. But as Maulana Ron Karenga said, and I agree, that until we free ourselves here first, we can't be qualified to help our brothers in Africa or anywhere else. That is true. But do you realize what we have among ourselves? We've got the technical expertise in every field of endeavor to lift our people all over the world if we brought our knowledge home and used it for self. That's why this thing here, brothers, this is not a joke. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's house, and he learned all the arts and sciences and techniques of Pharaoh, then he used it for the liberation of his people. We grew up in Pharaoh's house. And we have learned all of Pharaoh's stuff, both evil and good. Now what we got to do is use what we have learned for the liberation of our people here and all over the world. So brother, we lock hands together as brothers. We love you. Sister and sister, these are the last two questions.
In light of how our American society is separated families, what do you feel is the black woman's role in being a direct part of the liberation?
Oh, sister, I'm so glad you asked that question. Because here again is a lot of misconception about the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We thought that Elijah Muhammad was, I guess they would call him a male chauvinist. And if you go by outer appearances, it would seem that way. But I want to say this about Mr. Muhammad. In the early 30s, do you know he had women ministers? This is true. Those women ministers, sister ministers we call them, were so fiery, brothers would sit on the front row and they couldn't help but accept the teachings after the sisters got through walking on them. But it reinforced the old thing coming up through the matriarchal society that America produced. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad felt, and I like his rationale, that he had to pull the sister back and push the brother out, whether he was qualified or not. Get out there and make an attempt to leave. Do you know why? Because if we didn't do that, we would continue to hide behind the fearlessness, the courage, the bravery, the intelligence of our women folk. This is not a denial of what our women have. But how could we ever assert ourselves as men unless somebody pushed us out there and made us do it? So what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did, if you notice, in the early 30s, we didn't have women that had college degrees or even high school diplomas. We were mostly unlearned. He pulled the sisters in, pushed the brother out, told the sisters, hear me now, that your base of operations is the home. Your base, not your place, your base. Because the art of homemaking is lost to black women. And I do not care how much intellectual expertise you gather. If you don't know how to make a man happy, you ultimately are not happy yourself. And the art of making a man happy is the art of producing a heavenly home environment. For the strength of a nation is in the strength of male and female commitment to each other. The strength of a nation is in the strength of its family. And the strength of a family is in the strength of the home. You see that? All right? So, I'm going to say this to you, sister. As God is my judge, we don't ever want to see our woman walking behind us. We are revolutionaries. In a very unique sort of way, our women had to step back in order for us to grow in leadership. You know why? Because a woman cannot respect a man who refuses to take his place. And when a woman finds that a man refuses to take his place and doesn't show her that he is worthy of being honored, she treats him like a child. And most of our women do not have men, they have children that they nurture. And this is why a woman can actually take off her brassiere and just jiggle her breast in a man's face and he go wild. We should have been off the breast since we were 2 years old. But we got children around here running after boobs, running after butt. And this woman knows you're nothing but a child and a chump. But I'm going to tell you, brother, what is making me a man? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when I was no man at all, taught my wife to respect me, not for what I was, but for what I had the potential of being. Now hear me. That wife of mine, as a sister in the Muslim girls training class, learned how to show me respect even when I wasn't worthy of it. I've been married 25 years to the same woman. Hear me now, brother. And I'm growing into a man today because that woman knew how to help me to become one. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, when he asks you for something, show him respect. Honor him. I mean, I was worthy of it, but that woman honored me. She would say to me, and this was no subservient thing now, because I only struck her once in 25 years. When I struck her that once, she struck me back immediately, and that was the end of them striking days. So it ain't no subservient thing, but that woman, honest to God, that woman that is my wife, she handled me beautifully. We've had arguments, but never them kind of arguments where, it gets to this point. She knew when I was reaching that point that would make me less than a man. Because you're always less than a man when you got to beat up a woman. She would, she would just be quiet. And later on, I would come to see what she was saying. Women are very artful, brother. And don't you know, sister, if you can make a man think about you in the you know how you like to. You put on high heel shoes and put on a foxy dress. The man is reading a book. You want to read a book. You don't want to be bothered like that, but you want his attention. You know how to get it. Just walk in, make a little noise, and you move in such a way that when he looks up in the book, he's got the picture. And after the picture develops, you know he don't want no book no more. He wants you. Sisters know how to do that thing. Sisters know how to suggest to a man's mind. I've actually had conversations with sisters. And they be trying to talk into a romantic thing. Brother. Well, the brother's not too bad himself, but he never gets by on. A woman see you coming long before you even start your journey, brother. But she plays like she don't know what you're up for. But I ain't never met a dumb woman in my life. It's my. Well, sister, if you can do that optically to suggest into a man's mind, those kind of things, don't you know if you learn how to suggest other things to his mind, you can build him up that way. Am I right? Thanks to Allah for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the way he taught. That's the reason I'm able to come here and leave Chicago and fly here. And my wife is not worried about her husband. And I'm not worried about my wife. And I could leave and go into another part of the country. But that woman knows that my commitment is to black people, and her commitment is to help me in my commitment to the struggle of liberation for our people. So I expect to be with this woman until they put me in the earth. And I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad produced that. Brothers, you don't understand, all right, because I can't see the people. Yeah. I just want to look at it. And so, in fully answering your question, sister, your role is right beside the question. Your role is to develop all of your talents, capabilities, and utilize those capabilities for the struggle of liberation. If it's flying a plane, if it's going into outer space, if it's working in the chemistry lab, or if it's running a factory, running a school, whatever it is, if you've got the quality and capability to do it, that's what you must do. But never forsake the home base, because without the home, you don't have nothing in the factory that will keep you happy, nothing in space that will keep you happy, because your happiness is a man. And a man's happiness is woman. That's his comfort happiness. But the real happiness of a man is seeing his ideas come to fruition. And that we complement each other. That's our role. So let's not join women's liberation movement. I don't want to see you marching with white women for women's liberation. Because you ain't got nothing to be liberated from to take out. So you ain't never had no man to rule you. Now no black man, he don't rule you. He may brutalize you, but he don't rule you. Now there is a difference, you know. Because you have never had no non-private thoughts about it. You know where he's coming from. You just choose to go along with it. But you see him, so you don't need that. What you need is for this man to grow up and see you not as an instrument of pleasure. That all he wants you for is the bed, and after that's over, he's finished with you. What we got to see is that our women have a lot to do about the development of our world. You see this paper? The final call. This is our first paper. And I hope that you will read it. We're going to try to perfect it, make it better every edition. But you know who helped me to put this out? You know why I wanted a woman to help me with this paper? I didn't want a man. I wanted a woman. I had something in the back of my mind. I had an idea for the paper. But like a man has a sperm, he gives it to a woman. Does she give him back a sperm? She evolves, develops that sperm, and gives him back a child. Don't you know there's an aesthetic quality in a woman that represents the beauty of the divine creator? Men seem like they're satisfied in a bungalow. You get a room or a house, whatever it is, turn it over to her and say, go ahead, baby, beautify it. She'll take a common thing and she'll beautify it, amplify it, and when you see it, you won't hardly recognize it. She'll take the germ of what you got and she'll bring you back something that's right. She can take your ideas, and when she gets finished with your idea, she'll have life and beauty in that idea. That's why when you leave a woman out of things, you leave one of the most important ingredients in forming the thing out of it. That's why all male-dominated society is sick, because it don't reflect the creative property. See this paper? When you touch it, feels good. I knew it, I'm sure enough. I mean, I hate hard things, you know what I mean? I mean, what would I look like snuggled up with a man? Big old hard dude. I don't know how in the hell you brothers can do that thing. Anyway, you explain that in court later. I wanted a paper that was soft, that had some feel to it, and when you feel it, you know that somebody cares. When you look how well laid out that thing is. That sister did that. I wanted the substance of it, we could give her, but I wanted her to put the aesthetic quality to it and beautify the substance. And that's what she did. I think she did a beautiful job, and I love her for it. And I'm saying that that's what I had in my mind. And I'm telling you, brother, the misuse of the woman will be the destruction of our nation. The proper use of the woman is the proper use of yourself and the furthering of your nation. When you put her down, you put yourself down. When you pick her up, you pick yourself up, because she is and represents the future of you. So when you mistreat a woman, you ain't just mistreating her. You hate the future. That's your future. Brother, be careful how you put your hand in your future's face. Because you see that sister? When she's carrying that life for you, brother, she can do something to that life while she's carrying it to turn it against you right from here. Now, you don't think so. But brother, scientists are beginning to prove that a sister, if she smokes, that smoke will affect the lifespan of her child. If she drinks, her alcohol will kill the lifespan of that child and interfere with that child's brain and motor function, because you're bathing the child in alcohol as you're drunk carrying a new life. Well, if you can do that physically, you can also do that mentally by the things you think while you're carrying and forming new life. And the way she thinks, brother, is largely the way we treat her. I mean, we got a lot to learn about life and how to handle life properly. Okay? Thank you for listening.